the head of straight black hair, and it moved in a jerky type gait, um, like someone dancing the robot, but doing it quite badly. It moved like in chunks: legs, then hips, then torso, shoulders, neck, and finally the head. And it was looking back into the cornfield. This person, he felt prickly all over. He didn't know what it was, but it looked too much like a person. They thought it might have been a heron or something of that sort, but it didn't. It moved. It looked too much like a person. Didn't move like one. But gradually, step by step, it moved towards him. He moved to the edge of the dock, which was raised a few feet off the ground. And when they got within a few feet of the edge, the thing looked back at him, and he was paralyzed. He could have run, but he was just frozen to the spot. Its face was still pointed at him, and it ratcheted its body in that jerky movement toward the cornfield and went into it. The corn remained perfectly still also. Okay, Michelle's going to share here. In Connecticut, she was driving home from work. So, okay. She was working second shift, so she was driving home around 11 at night. And the road she normally took was blocked, so she had to take a route around this. Oh, I hate when they do that. She had to take a route around the lake, and she came around the corner, and it was a sharp corner. And there was this thing on the side of the road, and she got a really good look at it. It was right around 3.5 feet tall and just covered in hair. It almost looked like a miniature cousin. Yeah, I was going to say Cousin Ed. Yeah. It's not funny. No, it's not, because that's terrifying. It was on two legs. It had a distinct face, but the whole body was covered in hair. And at first she thought it was an otter or something standing on its hind legs, but it wasn't. And he had hands. Oh my God. Maybe yeah, they kind of frown upon that, Michelle, don't they? Yeah. Once you try to request something off and then you call in sick, it's like, yeah, right. I wonder if it could have been a child Bigfoot. You think? Could be. I mean, stranger things have been seen. But this guy was like frozen, and he tried to process what was going on, and still hasn't forgotten it. So, I mean, you have so many stories out there. They're so descriptive, so accurate, and how could they be making this up? Sometimes I think some people do, but yeah, an otter, huh? Interesting. Dang cornfields anyway. I'm telling you what, don't like them at night. Yeah, I've seen that movie. So that's the cornfield creature that was sighted. This next one is a cryptid, okay? Forest cryptid. And this was a story that took place on the 26th of September in 2009. There was a retreat in Indiana from a church, and it was in a forest. Bummer. I'm still trying to, Lori. I am. We'll see what happens. And the place they stayed at was a small building in the center of the forest. They decided that evening to go out and play with the kids, so they came up with a game. It was like police. The kids were the police, and we would pick an adult to be the hostage. So when we began the game, we had to find the adult hiding in the forest in the middle of the night. So they started going around the back of the building. They spotted a tall figure. It was at least 6 feet tall. It was running towards the trees where there was a small open area with, the tall grass that goes up to your knees. It ran with its arms at its sides, but it stopped at the edge of the tall grass, like it was waiting for them to get closer. They chased after it, thinking it was an adult, and they were finally a few yards away. It dove into the grass and started to crawl very fast, kind of snake-like. Ugh, that would have been enough for me right there. They got weirded out, but they stood there watching it. And when it got across the grass, it began to climb a tree. It looked somewhat like a deformed cat-like animal when it was climbing. A few minutes later, a child yelled, I see him, and was pointing in the opposite direction. And they saw a similar figure running a couple of yards away. They tried chasing it, but it outran them, of course. It turns out, a few minutes later, of course, they found the adult hiding in the parking lot. So they don't know what they saw that night in the forest. At least 15 kids and 2 adults saw that. And they all said the same thing. So, is it true or isn't it? Like I said, he had 15 kids, old enough, of course, and several adults that saw this thing. That would freak me out if I saw something go into the tall grass, slithering like a snake. Yeah, no, not for me. Thank you very much. I would definitely pass. So, just and a lot of times you just see it one time. You see something and you stand there transfixed looking at it thinking, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And your mind's trying to process this. So yeah, I don't know. I think, 75% are not true. I think 70 to 75%. But I think the rest of them are because there's too many accountings of the same thing that go on. And where's Bigfoot been lately? I'm kind of worried about him. We haven't heard about him lately. Nothing about Bigfoot. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen a thing. Kind of crazy since Josh Gates and his troop there found that footprint. That was a national sensation. So, is Bigfoot real? I don't know. We'll probably discuss him in another time. That's a whole nother story. I think he is. I think there could be. But who knows, right? Okay, this is called the Prime Hook Swamp Creature, and this is in Broadkill Beach, Delaware. Okay, it was around dusk in July of 2007, and this road kind of borders a swamp area. And standing by the side of the road by the swamp, they saw a creature like they've never seen before. It stood about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, with long legs, tan body, flat stomach, almost puggish face, and a long tail. It had small ears and looked to be about 30 pounds. We also saw this animal the same time the year before around the same area, except it was night and it ran in front of their car. They asked the lady who owned the Broadkeach Bill store about it, and she said she had seen it once when she was dirt biking with her dad in the area years before. And both her and her dad had no idea what it was, even though she was raised there. We were very lucky to have spotted it. Very few people have seen it. The swamp area is called the Prime Hook Reserve. They have a museum, and they had no idea what it could be. They have several accountings, several sightings, but nobody has a clue as to what they're seeing. So could it be? That's a real detailed description. But that was around dusk, so it's still light out, so you could really see something like that. Almost sounds like yours, Michelle, a little bit, except it wasn't hairy, full of hair. So they're just strange creatures. The best I love to watch, if you get a chance, watch Josh Gates' Destination Truth when he searches for these creatures. They're so insightful. Usually they don't find anything, but there's always stuff going on. And some things, they're new species. Who knows? So this is called the Florida Sea Monster. I don't know, maybe you guys live by Florida. I don't know, Michelle, if you did. Lord, I know you did. The Florida Sea Monster. This was back in the late 90s. And practically every year, this family would take a trip to Florida. And of course, they'd go to Disney World. So one year they didn't. And one of those days, they were on a beach. The people sitting next to us mentioned the bottom tip of Florida. I'm sorry, button. I can read. Bottom tip of Florida. After a while of nothing happening, everyone was either in the ocean or sunbathing. A woman sitting to the left of these people pointed past us and screamed, "What is that?" And everybody turned to look at a surprisingly vacant corner of the beach. There were no people down there, but there was something really, really strange. They all got up to take a better look, and very quickly a crowd was forming around this. To describe the creature we saw in one word, that word would be cartoonish. They'll never forget what it looked like. It was green and looked like a ball of slime about the size of a basketball. It had tentacles resting on the ground, with two longer tail-like tentacles stretching out of its back. It was the most bizarre. What was the most bizarre about this, and it made it look cartoonish, were its eyes, which were on stalks that stood about a foot off the ground. And I'm sorry, I just got a message from Chris. Okay. It stood about a foot off its body, the stalk with the eyes. The eyes looked creepily human and looked at us in a kind of like offhandish way, like, yeah, whatever. The other strange thing was its mouth, which never seemed to close. And where you'd expect teeth were tooth-shaped fleshy protrusions. Ooh. And no one, not even the creature, seemed scared. He wasn't scared of them, and the people weren't scared. They were just really intrigued by this. And after a while, it kind of just slithered back into the ocean. There were approximately 10 to 12 witnesses. They thought it could have been a parasite organism. That was just never identified. So that's interesting. Have you ever heard of that, Lori? The Florida sea monster. Interesting. It's funny how you could be in the right place at the right time and just see some really strange things. It just happened to be there. Of course, we all know about the Mothman. That is one of the creepiest ones ever because everybody believes that one. Especially the people who live there. So, yeah. This was a dry night in November, and a family had moved into a new house upon a hill in the small town of Fort Gay, West Virginia. Fort Gay sits right on the east side of Kentucky. No, you haven't? Oh, okay. Interesting, though. There's all kinds of stuff out there. These creatures and these strange creatures are sighted everywhere, encountered. So, how much, like I said, there were about a dozen witnesses. So how can you say, no, it's not true? They think it was some kind of, parasite organism. It's possible. Who knows? The ocean is so vast, and we still know very little about it. So it's hard telling. Could be a new species. Anyway, the population of Fort Gay was probably a couple thousand people. They were unpacking. They hadn't put the furniture yet, and of course everything was still in boxes. But overwhelmed with working all day, they went to bed about 11 p.m. And they just kind of, slept in the living room and stuff because the beds weren't put together yet. This person, he was looking out a window. It was about 20 to 25 feet or so off the ground. He looked out the window and saw it. It was about 7 feet tall. Had no idea. They had no idea what it was, but they were frozen. All they could do was just lay there and stare at this thing. It was sitting in a tree about 50 feet or so off the ground. And it was kind of a little farther from the house. It felt like an eternity. They couldn't blink. They couldn't move. They couldn't do anything. It had the big red, bright glowing eyes looking dead into their faces. They finally worked up enough courage to close their eyes and put their head under the covers. This thing smacked the window. It flew right into the window. They went through the house screaming, "There's something outside, there's something outside." My parents looked at me and said, "What is wrong with you? Have you seen